Hi, I am Linda Gaines of Geeky Girl Gaines, my crafting business. And so one of the things I've been doing recently is making sea glass. And it's actually not too difficult. However, when I searched the internet trying to find information on how you can make sea glass or if you can make sea glass, I got really different results. I had some results, like some places say, no, you can't do it. It's going to turn out horribly. Some places said, yeah, you can do it. It's great. The problem was with all the information I found, it was severely lacking on details. So this is my video where I am telling you exactly how I did. I think I have pretty good results. So if you are interested in making sea glass, this is how I did it. So hopefully that'll help you. So just so you, these are some examples of sea glass that I have made. Everything that I've made thus far has been from wine bottles. After I've enjoyed wine, the wine in the bottle, I then take a hammer to the bottle, smash it up, and get pieces, and then I put them in the rock tumbler. So I'm going to show you exactly all the details of how I do it, but just before I do, just so you can see, this is, wine bottles are in fact actually incredibly strong, particularly the base and also the neck. And actually this one is actually from a sparkling wine. Sparkling wine bottles are really strong, which if you consider the pressure they're under and the from the, the gas that's inside the wine, and of course all the transportation involved, it makes sense that they're really strong, but it takes quite a bit of hitting with a hammer to finally get these things to break. Okay, one hit with a hammer is not going to break you a wine bottle. But so anyway, and so even once or at least once I break the bottle, like the base, the base and the top don't really want to break. So I've just gone ahead and started tumbling them. But actually I think it ends up being pretty cool to just have this entire wine bottle top. What's interesting, or sort of like one issue when I do tumble an entire wine bottle top, a lot of times the pebbles and other pieces of glass will get stuck inside. And so what will end up happening is, I'm not sure if this is visible, but the inside of this is still smooth. Like, in other words, it hasn't been tumbled, whereas the outside, it's been exposed to the grit, so it looks like that sea glass. However, very importantly, once I finish tumbling all the glass, I do check each individual piece to make sure there's no sharp edges. Otherwise, I'll just tumble it again. And so while the inside of this is smooth, the edges are all very smooth, so it's safe to use. Some wine bottles I have been able to break the top, and so then I can just get this top like this, which actually I think also looks really cool. And again, the bottoms are incredibly strong, so a lot of times I just tumble them as is. Although recently I tumbled this one, and now that I'm looking at it, there's still some sharp, I mean, it's not cutting me, but it's fairly sharp on the edges, so I think I'm going to go ahead and tumble this one again just to hopefully smooth out the edges up here. This one was kind of fun because it's obviously a wine bottle bottom, but like the inner part broke off, but then so I got this interesting ring. This one, I put this into the tumbler, which I'll show you a little bit later, and it must have gone down like this, and so the top of it was exposed to the grit and it's all smoothed out. The bottom is still shiny, like, in other words, the grit never got to it, so the bottom is shiny, which is really interesting. So I'm definitely keeping that as is, but again, importantly, all the edges are very smooth, so it's fine as it is. I've got I've got cobalt blue, I've got some teal, and some variations of green, and also the clear, obviously. Just depends upon what glass you're using. I happen to just purely by luck drink some wine that comes in interesting colors. And I am still experimenting with like the size of the glass in terms of, this is a fairly decent size piece of glass, but like, in other words, how small can I break them and they'll still tumble and, give me sea glass. In other words, as opposed to, or maybe they will break in the tumbler, but I can still get a decent sized piece of sea glass. So this is fairly small. This is probably about the smallest I would want sea glass, but it is nicely tumbled. It is smooth, so it's not causing any kind of danger. This one is kind of funny. I think I just sort of threw this in purely by experimentation. Okay, what will happen, because it's so sharp. I don't know if I threw this one in here or if this broke off while it was in the tumbler. But so it's got this, it's, it's this really pointy piece. Conversely, it's been completely tumbled. It's smooth to the touch. Even the point is smooth. So anyway, yeah, that's just an example of the types of glass, types of pieces you can get from tumbling sea glass. So yeah, let me show you how I tumble it. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to show before I start showing you how to tumble it is I had a wine bottle that had this sort of diamond pattern on it. And the diamond pattern, hoping the camera can catch this, the diamond pattern is still visible once it's gone through the tumbler. It's more subdued, but you can see the pattern. This one too, it's from that same bottle. I hope the camera can catch this, but it's this diamond pattern and it's just really interesting. So it's not quite as prominent, from when, like I bought the bottle in the store with the wine in it, but the grit doesn't scour so much that it completely smoothed it out. So this still has that pattern, which ends up looking really interesting. So that's just something to note if you want to try this, is see if you can find not only interesting colored glass, but some that might already have a pattern within the glass. Okay, so before I start breaking the glass to make the sea glass, just a couple of things, tools you'll need. First of all, hammer to break the glass. I also have a very large pair of pliers. I find that these work really well if I need to just break off like a little piece of glass, pointy edge or something like that. This works really well for that. I can't stress this enough. You need to have eye protection. I get sweaty. I don't particularly like wearing them, but I like having glass in my eye even less. So wear eye protection if you're going to be breaking glass or working with any of this. I also wear a respirator. It may not be, this is probably overkill for me when I'm breaking the glass, just because I'm worried about any little tiny pieces of glass that might become airborne. But I'm an engineer and I work in safety and health, so practice what you preach. Also, I needed to buy one for when I'm working with certain chemicals. Definitely when you're using the grit, I would wear a respirator, because the grits, maybe not the coarse grit, but definitely the finer grit is just very, very fine. You don't want to be breathing it in. So, at least wear the respirator for like the minute or so it takes you to take the grit out. And then I wear nitrile gloves with everything. I mean, that's not going to protect me from really sharp glass, but I find that it helps a little bit. And it causes me to think about what I'm doing. And then what I do is I break the glass, and I don't know about you, but I know I have tons and tons of Amazon boxes. So I break the glass. What I did is I took a box and I lined the edges with tape, like the tape for packages, so that it kind of seals it in. And so then this is my glass breaking box. And then I just, cover the glass with the towel when I'm breaking it. Okay, so once I've got all my safety gear on, mainly gloves and eye protection, and I also wear a respirator, as I noted, I take the bottle, I wrap it in some piece of cardboard and a towel, which that's to protect me. That's not, I don't think that helps me to break it. In fact, it probably hinders me breaking it, but I don't want glass everywhere. So I just take the hammer to it, and I have to hit it many, many times until I find that. I guess it's a sweet spot. As best I can tell, where the neck meets the wider part of the bottle, that seems to be the place to hit it with the hammer. I don't know. I just hit it a lot of times. And then as I'm going through, once I've hit it, I look for the pieces of glass that are in the size range I want. If they're, way too big, they're not even going to fit into the tumbler. If they're too small, they're just going to be shards. And so the very tiny pieces I'll set aside to later be recycled. And then the larger pieces I just hit with a hammer again. As I noted, the base and the neck are particularly strong, so those involve a couple of hits with a hammer. You will note that the glass pieces are sort of disappearing off screen. What I'm doing is I'm putting the glass pieces that I like and I want to tumble into the tumbler drums to get them ready to then tumble. And then as I'm going through, if there's like just a small sharp edge, I actually find that the pliers work better than the hammer at just getting off that small little piece of glass, so, like at the base of the bottle. So now I've got all the pieces of glass that I like, and I've put them in the tumbler drums. And you'll note that I've got the drum on the scale so I can check the weight, because the drums can handle a certain amount of weight. And now I am adding aquarium gravel, pea gravel, what have you. You can buy, this is little gravel you can buy for an aquarium. I got this idea from Agate Ariel on YouTube. I'm going to link to her YouTube account because she's got great information if you want to tumble something. So I just add the gravel to the drum because I want it to fill in the spaces. I don't want the glass knocking against each other. I want it knocking, I want it like being the tumbling to be softened with the gravel. And then I add water, fill it up to where the top of the volume is. And then finally I'm adding the, this is the grit that will actually sort of scour the glass. I will put all the details of what kind of grit I'm using in the comments for this video, but I'm using the coarse grit, so that's the first step you would use if you were tumbling rocks, and just following the directions in terms of how much I need to add. Then once that is done, I just put the tops onto the drums and I get them ready to put on the tumbler. Quick note, once I put my respirator on before I open up the container of grit. I just think I don't want to be breathing in that stuff. So I would encourage you to wear a respirator if you're working with grit. Okay, so now I have a batch of glass that's been on the tumbler for about a week. A week just seems to be a good amount of time to keep it on the tumbler. So plus I work 5 days a week. So in other words, I just put it on before my work week begins, and then I get it off when my work week ends.
You'll note that this is, by the way, this is a different batch of glass than what I showed at the beginning of the video. The glass does not magically change color while in the tumbler. This is just a different batch of glass. And you'll also note that I am opening this stuff up outside because I need to pour the contents of the drum, which is, the sea glass, the pebbles, water, and the grit. Do not pour this liquid down your drain. The grit will not be nice. It won't do nice things to your pipes. So do this outside, as you'll note that I am doing, and I'm just cleaning out the drums and to rinse off the glass. One note, at the beginning of this video, I noted that I like tumbling the bottle tops of the glass bottle tops for the wine. The one problem with doing that is what I'm about to show you here, is that when it's in the tumbler, pieces of glass and pebbles can get wedged in there, particularly the glass is just big enough to fit in there, and it'll get wedged in there really, really nicely. So it'll take me a little bit of time to pull out that glass and to let it all be free. But it just takes a little bit of doing. So once I've done that, I rinse off the glass again, and then what I like to do is pour the glass into another bucket, and I add a little bit of Dawn. I actually added a little bit too much here, and then some water, and then I'll just mix it up, and the Dawn will help make sure I get all of the grit off of the glass and get it nice and clean. Because this is just water, Dawn, and grit, it's okay to let this go down the storm drain. There's nothing toxic with this. And also of note, the water, the first water that I poured out of the drum, that, it's really concentrated with the grit, I will toss that onto my yard. The grit is silicon carbide, so it's fine for the soil. You just don't want it going down your drain. And so once I've got it, then I'll put it on a towel and just let it dry.
Okay, and so this is what this batch of sea glass looks like. As you can see, now that it's dry, it's got that nice kind of frosted look from the grit.
So that's how you make sea glass. Hope you found this helpful, and put any questions in the comments.